Welcome to my channel. In today's video, we are exploring four interesting United States quarter dollars: the 1977 D, the 1978, the 1988 P, and the 1991 P. Each of these coins carries its own history, minting story, and collectible appeal, making them exciting find for collectors who love understanding the hidden value behind everyday change. The 1977 D Washington quarter is a coin that carries its own place in the long story of American circulating coinage, and understanding it requires looking closely at its design history, minting background, metal composition, production circumstances at the Denver Mint, and the important role it played in everyday commerce during the late 1970s. When people think of collectible American coins, they often imagine silver dollars, Morgan dollars, Buffalo nickels, or wheat pennies. But the Washington Quarter Series has its own importance because it ran for decades in the pockets of millions of Americans, and the 1977 D Quarter is an example from a time when the United States Mint was well into the era of copper-nickel-clad coinage after the end of silver circulation coins in the mid-1960s. Even though most 1977 D quarters ended up being spent, used, worn down, or lost, the coin still attracts collectors because each date and mint mark in the Washington Quarter Series has its own story about mintage quality, rarity, and high grade, and small varieties that can interest hobbyists. The design of a 1977 D quarter carries a familiar portrait of George Washington on the obverse, created by sculptor John Flanagan. This portrait was first used in 1932 to mark the 200th birthday of George Washington and remained on the coin for decades. The design shows Washington in profile, facing left, with his hair tied in a classical style that reflects 18th century portraiture. Above the portrait is the word Liberty, placed across the top of the coin, and directly beneath Washington's chin appears the national motto, "I in God we trust." Below the portrait near the rim is the date 1977. On the right side of the portrait is the Mint Mark D, which signifies that the coin was produced at the Denver Mint, one of the major production facilities of the United States Mint. Even though the design remained the same for many years, each year's striking quality, die preparation, and metal characteristics could still produce small differences that collectors pay attention to. The reverse of the 1977 D quarter features a heraldic eagle design, which was also created by John Flanagan. The eagle stands with its wings spread wide, a symbol of American strength, vigilance, and national identity. In its talons, the eagle holds a bundle of arrows, representing preparedness for defense, while an olive branch rests beneath it, symbolizing peace. Around the eagle are inscriptions such as United States of America at the top and the denomination quarter dollar at the bottom. Directly above the eagle is the phrase E pluribus unum, which is Latin for out of many one, expressing the idea that the nation is made up of many states united together. This version of the eagle design was used for a long period until it was replaced by the state quarters program in 1999. The metal composition of the 1977 D quarter is the same as all standard circulating quarters struck after 1965. The coin is made of a clad composition consisting of a pure copper core sandwiched between two layers of copper-nickel alloy. The outer layers are composed of 75% copper and 25% nickel, which gives the coin its silver-colored appearance even though it does not contain any silver. This composition was adopted in 1965 when the United States removed silver from most circulating coinage due to rising metal prices that made silver coins too expensive to produce. The clad composition remained stable through the 1970s, including 1977, and it produced coins that were durable, corrosion-resistant, and cost-effective, allowing millions of coins to circulate without requiring expensive precious metals. The Denver Mint produced an extremely large number of 1977 D quarters, making them common in circulation during their time. The Mint used high-speed presses to strike these coins from hardened steel dies, and these dies were down as they struck hundreds of thousands of coins. As dies aged, they began producing softer details, weaker strikes, or small marks, which is why some 1977 D quarters appear with sharp details, and others look slightly mushy or flat in certain areas. Collectors often examine the quality of the eagle feathers on the reverse or the hair details on Washington's portrait to judge how strong the strike is. The Denver Mint was known during this era for producing large volumes of coins for circulation, and although the vast majority of these coins were made for everyday use, some well-preserved examples survive because they were saved in jars, rolls, or bags without being exposed to heavy wear. But quality could still vary widely. This variation is part of what makes collecting modern quarters more interesting than it might first appear. Even simple coins from the 1970s can become valuable if they survive in exceptional condition. In some cases, superb gems coins circulated to meet consumer demand. People use quarters extensively in the condition of surviving 1977. D-quarters also reflects how people treated coins during this time. Many individuals save coins in jars, tins, or drawers without paying attention to specific dates, which means uncirculated coins occasionally appear when someone opens an old roll or finds forgotten stash. These discoveries help supply collectors with better quality examples. Many others, however, spent the coins until they especially one with exceptional eye appeal, strong strike, and clean fields. Professional grading companies sometimes award designations such as full strike or fullest durability means that collectors often find coins from the 1970s still in usable condition, allowing people to reflect on how long physical currency can remain in active service. For some coin enthusiasts, the 1977 D holds personal memories. People who grew up in the late 1970s or early 1980s often remember using these coins for small purchases, games, bus fares, or school lunches. Coins can spark nostalgia, and the 1977 D quarter can carry personal meaning even if it is not rare. This human-issued sets often contain higher quality examples because the coins were not released into circulation. Instead, they were packaged carefully for collectors. Finding a coin from one of these sets can offer better surfaces and sharper details compared to circulation-struck coins. The legacy of the 1977 D Washington quarter lies not in rarity, but in representation. It symbolizes a year in American monetary history, a continuing design tradition, and the everyday life of millions of people who use these coins without realizing that decades later collectors would study them with interest. Every detail, from the eagle's feathers to the subtle lines in Washington's hair, tells the story of craftsmanship and mass production blended together. Although millions exist, the story of the 1977 D quarter becomes meaningful when you recognize how it fits into the chain of American coinage. Each piece represents a moment in time when it was struck, a small yet tangible link to the flow of commerce across the United States. Whether found in a pocket, a drawer, or an old collection, the 1977 D quarter remains a simple, sturdy piece of American history that continues to attract curiosity and appreciation from collectors around the world. The 1978 quarter dollar represents one of the final years of the classic Washington quarter design that had remained unchanged in its core structure since 1932, long before the state quarter program, modern commemoratives, or the enhanced minting technologies of later decades began reshaping U.S. coinage. A 1978 quarter carries with it the continued legacy of the Washington portrait, created by sculptor John Flanagan. And although at first glance it may seem like an ordinary and common coin, it still reflects the United States Mint's transitional period of the late 20th century. This era was defined by stable but high-volume production, the widespread use of copper-nickel clad planchets, and advancing minting techniques that ensure consistent quality. The 1978 quarter belongs to the modern clad series, meaning it is composed of two outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core. This composition had been introduced in 1965 after rising silver prices made it impractical to continue using silver in circulating quarters. So by 1978, the clad system was well established, and minting processes were efficiently producing hundreds of millions of quarters every year. A 1978 quarter minted at Denver carries a small D mint mark on the front of the coin, just to the right of Washington's ponytail. Philadelphia-made coins of this year do not have any mint mark at all, which was standard practice with Philadelphia Mint at the time. The diameter of the 1978 quarter remains a familiar 24.3 millimeters, with a thickness of approximately 1.75 millimeters and a total weight of 5.67 grams. The edge of the coin is fully reeded, containing around 119 reeds that create the familiar ridge texture, originally designed centuries earlier to deter clipping and shaving of precious metal coins. Even though the modern quarters are no longer made of silver, the reeded edge remains a signature feature that keeps continuity with the historic designs. The obverse of the 1978 quarter features the iconic profile of George Washington, modeled from a bust by French sculptor Jean-Antoine Houdon. Flanagan adaptation has been used for nearly 70 years before later modifications slightly changed the portrait. On the 1978 example, Washington appears in a left-facing profile, with fine details in the hair tied with a ribbon at the back. The inscriptions include the word Liberty at the top, the date 1978 at the bottom, and the national motto "In God We Trust" placed at the left side. Many collectors appreciate the subtle differences between the dyes used each year, as minor variations in the sharpness of the lettering or relief can occur due to dye wear or production adjustments. A fresh dye from 1978 would show crisp detailing in the hair curls, strong definition on the bow, and sharp edges around the lettering, while heavily used dyes tend to soften these features, leading to slight blurring of the finer details. The reverse design depicts a heraldic eagle with spread wings, clutching a bundle of arrows, symbolizing strength and readiness for defense, while the olive branches below represent peace. The eagle faces upward and outward, with the phrase United States of America along the top rim, followed by E pluribus unum position between the eagle's wings. At the bottom sits the denomination quarter dollar. The design on 1978 quarters tends to display good strike clarity because, by this time, the men had optimized the techniques for creating consistent clad quarters. However, certain coins, especially those struck by slightly worn dies, may show weaker definition in the eagle's feathers, particularly in the central chest and upper wings. Collectors often look for strong strikes where the feathers appear fully separated and the arrows show clear definition. The minting process for 1978 quarters involved creating planchets from large copper-nickel sheets, punching them into round blanks, and then raising their rims through an upsetting mill. After being washed, dried, and fed into the coin presses, each blank received its obverse and reverse images at high pressure. The Denver Mint produced very large numbers of 1978 quarters, meaning most examples from this year are still extremely common in circulation. This abundance is why circulated 1978 quarters typically hold only face value, unless they have an unusual mint error or exist in exceptionally high uncirculated grades. Well-preserved specimens preserved straight from mint sets or rolls can display brilliant luster, sharp strikes, and minimal contact marks, which may give them modest collectible value. Collectors often seek high-grade mint state examples, especially those graded MS-65 or higher by professional grading companies. Such coins must show strong luster, minimal scratches, and excellent strike quality. Because the quarter sees heavy use in commerce, finding circulation-free coins from 1978 is still fairly easy, but finding top-tier perfect examples with flawless surfaces is more uncommon. Bag marks, small nicks, or minor abrasions from storage and transportation are common on coins struck for circulation, even if they were never spent. So pristine high-end coins always attract numismatists who specialize in modern clad issues. The 1978 quarter also holds interest for error collectors. While not an especially famous error year, examples of off-center the 1970s quarters as part of the last stretch before design and composition changes began appearing more frequently in modern U.S. coinage. In terms of value, circulated 1978 quarters generally hold face value, but uncirculated and high-grade examples can range higher depending on condition. Brilliant uncirculated specimens taken from mint sets or original rolls often show strong mint luster and minimal contact marks, giving them modest value above face value. Coins that achieve grades like MS-66 or MS-67 can be HT. When preserved properly, also makes these coins visually appealing for collectors assembling date and mint mark sets of the entire Washington quarter series. Collectors also pay attention to the presence of full drum lines on reverse arrows and strong feather definition, as these indicators reveal how sharply the die struck the coin. On high-grade specimens, the eagle's wings show clear line separation, and the olive leaves below the arrows appear distinctly shaped. These details deepen the appreciation of craftsmanship behind what might seem like an everyday object. Mint sets from 1978 also include these quarters, often preserved in sealed packaging that protects them from air, fingerprints, and environmental effects. Such packaging helps maintain the original mint brilliance and can keep a coin in top-tier condition for decades. Dollar stands as an accessible yet meaningful piece of American coinage. It captures the essence of a long-running design, reflects the mint's mastery of clad coin production, and offers a combination of history, design, and collectability that appeals to a wide audience. While most examples remain common and affordable, high-grade uncirculated coins, unique errors, and exceptionally well-struck specimens continue to attract attention. The coin's durability ensures that millions remain in circulation, yet the preserved pieces found in collections and mint sets provide insight into the craftsmanship and precision behind their creation. For anyone studying or collecting Washington quarters, the 1978 issue serves as a solid and essential part of the larger narrative of 20th century American currency. The 1988 P quarter dollar is a fascinating piece of American coinage that represents a mature phase in the long-running Washington quarter series, a coin that by that time had already been part of American hands, pockets, savings jars, and everyday commerce for more than 5 decades. The coin minted in 1988 at the Philadelphia Mint carries a P mint mark that had become standard for Philadelphia coinage after 1980, and this letter, placed just to the right of George Washington's ribbon on the obverse, is one of the defining identifiers for collectors who want to distinguish this issue from the Denver and San Francisco counterparts. When discussing the 1988 P quarter, it is important to understand that by the late 1980s, the quarter had shifted from being a silver-based coin with intrinsic metal value to a fully modern clad coin, made of copper nickel bonded to a pure copper core. This composition made the coin durable, lighter in production cost, and perfectly suited for high-volume circulation in an expanding American economy that heavily relied on quarters for vending machines, public telephones, parking meters, laundromats, arcade tokens, and general daily transactions. The 1988 P quarter carries the same obverse design that had been used since 1932, with a profile of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. Washington faces left, his hair tied back with ribbon, and the word Liberty stretches across the top of the coin in bold, traditional lettering. Below Washington's chin, the motto "I in God We Trust" is placed slightly toward the left side, and under the neck, you can observe the date 1988, sharply defined on coins struck with fresh dies but often softer or less bold on heavily circulated examples. The presence of the P mint mark right next to the ribbon is an important detail for collectors evaluating mint origin, die variety, and rarity factors. The reverse of the 1988 P quarter features Flanagan classic heraldic eagle design. An eagle with outstretched wings stands on a bundle of arrows, symbolizing strength and readiness to defend, while an olive branch beneath the arrows symbolizes peace. At the top of the reverse design, United States of America arches gracefully above the eagle, followed directly under it by the motto E Pluribus Unum. Between the eagle's tail and the rim of the coin, you find quarter dollar written clearly in all caps. The design has a powerful balance of symbolism, patriotism, and traditional engraving style connected to classic American coinage. Even though this design had been used for decades, the 1988 strike quality varies considerably, so some coins display crisp feather details, while others look softer due to die wear, production speed, and circulation damage. To truly understand the 1988 P quarter, you need to look at minting history, mintage numbers, die production, plancha preparation, and the overall state of the U.S. Mint in the 1980s. By 1988, the Philadelphia Mint was producing billions of coins annually, and it was operating under high pressure to supply the national demand for circulating coinage. This meant that dies often wore out more quickly, were used for extended production runs, or were replaced with less meticulous polishing. As a result, 1988 quarters are commonly found with weak strikes, die polishing lines, die chips, and other small production defects that are interesting to variety hunters. The exact mintage of the 1988 P quarter is known to be very high, hundreds of millions, making the coin extremely common in circulated condition. Because of this abundance, circulated examples usually carry only face value, unless they have an error or stand out due to exceptional condition. Collectors are particularly interested in high-grade uncirculated 1988 P quarters, especially those graded MS-66, MS-67, or higher by major grading companies such as PCGS or NGC. Coins that achieve MS-67 are rare because the high-speed production and rough handling in storage bins means that even freshly minted coins often receive contact marks, abrasions, or dull luster patches before ever reaching collectors. A true gem-quality 1988 P quarter stands out with strong cartwheel luster, crisp details in Washington's hair, and eagle's wings, and a clean, distraction-free surface with minimal marks. These top-grade examples fetch strong premiums in the collector market because they represent the best survivals from an era of mass production and heavy circulation. One of the fascinating aspects of the 1988 P quarter is the presence of several minor varieties and errors. Error collectors faintly on the coins fields. Collectors enjoy hunting for these subtle details because they turn an ordinary 1988 P quarter into a more valuable and interesting piece. Off-center errors occur when the blank planchet is not properly aligned between the dies. A 5% to 10% off-center strike might bring a modest premium, while a dramatic 40% to 60% off-center with full date visible can be highly valuable. Another element worth noting is the state of die longevity in the late 1980s. Dies used at Philadelphia often produced hundreds of thousands of coins before being retired, and as they wore down, the clarity of the design elements faded, producing what collectors call a worn die strike. Many 1988 P quarters exhibit this worn appearance, especially in the eagle's wing feathers on the reverse. The soft detail does not necessarily mean the coin is worn from circulation. Rather, it might have been weakly struck right from a mint. Coins from late die states may also show die cracks, thin raised lines on the coin surface caused by fractures in the die metal. These are common in 1988 P quarters and can range from tiny cracks near the rim to large breaks crossing Washington's face, the motto "I in God we trust" or the eagle's wings. Some 1988 P quarters also show filled mint mark errors, where the P appears mushy or partially traditional eagleback design, making it one of the late-era classic Washington quarters. For collectors assembling date and mint mark sets, the 1988 P quarter is essential but not difficult to obtain in basic condition. It serves as a reminder of everyday American life in the late 1980s, a time when coins were used constantly for public phones, buses, metro systems, convenience stores, pay meters, and countless small purchases. Younger generations in the 1980s often remember quarters being the standard for arcade games and snack machines, making the Washington quarter an icon of daily living. The 1988 P quarter thus holds nostalgic and historical significance far beyond its face value, suggests long-term circulation. On extremely high-grade examples, the luster flows uniformly across the edge, showing in large quantities. In the early 1990s, roll saving became more popular, but look back at these pieces with a sense of nostalgia, important for maintaining uniform quality across the set. In summary, the 1988 P quarter dollar is an important, historically rich, and numismatically interesting piece of American coinage. Though common in circulation, it becomes highly desirable in high-grade condition, or with notable errors or varieties. Its physical composition, design longevity, minting history, and place within American economic life add layers of significance that collectors greatly appreciate. It remains a symbol of both continuity and transformation in the American monetary system, connecting past and present through its enduring design and widespread use. The 1991 P quarter dollar is a modern circulatory coin that reflects the evolving character of American coinage during the early 1990s, a period marked by high minting output, changing economic patterns, and an increasing dependence on vending machines, transportation tokens, laundromats, arcade systems, and public facilities that heavily relied on quarters. Struck at the Philadelphia Mint, the coin bears the P mint mark on the obverse, positioned beside the ribbon in Washington's tied hair. This small mint mark is one of the key identifiers that separates the Philadelphia issue from the Denver and San Francisco strikes, helping collectors distinguish mint origins for date and mint mark sets, error studies, and condition rarity assessments. The 1991 P quarter belongs to the final decade of the traditional Washington quarter design before the introduction of the statehood quarter program in 1999. which makes it part of the last generation of the classic eagle reverse quarters that circulated for more than 60 years in the United States. Despite its common appearance in circulation, the 1991 P quarter has a rich, detailed story involving mint production quality, die usage, strike characteristics, collecting traits, era varieties, and the historical background of its era. On the obverse, the familiar bust of George Washington faces left, designed originally by sculptor John Flanagan in 1932. The design had been used for nearly 6 decades by 1991, and although the overall portrait remained the same, subtle changes had occurred over time due to modifications in dyes, repolishing, wear, and evolving mint technology. The word Liberty sits prominently above Washington's head, spaced widely across the upper rim. The motto "I in God we trust" appears in the left field, beneath Washington's chin, representing one of the key elements of American coinage tradition. The date 1991 is placed centrally below the bust, crisp on freshly struck examples, but often softened on weak strikes or heavily circulated coins. To the right of Washington's ponytail ribbon lies the P mint mark, which by 1991 had become standard since Philadelphia began marking its coins in 1980. Collectors pay close attention to the appearance of the mint mark because filled, faint, or oddly shaped mint marks can indicate grease-filled die errors or late-stage die deterioration. The reverse design of the 1991 P quarter continues the classic heraldic eagle motif. The eagle stands with wings spread wide, perched upon a bundle of arrows, signifying readiness and national defense, while an olive branch below the arrows represents America's desire for peace. Above the eagle, United States of America arcs gracefully along the upper rim. The motto E pluribus unum sits just above the eagle's head, and the denomination quarter dollar forms a wide arch near the bottom of the coin. The design is simple yet powerful, a familiar symbol recognizable to generations of Americans. By 1991, however, the dies produced in this design were sometimes worn from heavy usage, causing many coins to exhibit weak feather details or soft wing impressions, especially toward the reverse center. This soft strike appearance is typical of quarters from the early 1990s, making truly sharp examples more desirable. The composition of the 1991 P quarter follows the standard clad structure used since 1965. 2 outer layers made of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core. This copper-nickel clad alloy gives the coin its characteristic silver-gray tone, durability, and resistance to wear, though it is prone to developing spotting, toning, and darker coloration after prolonged exposure to moisture or circulation. Freshly struck 1991 P quarters often display bright luster, ranging from a satiny glow to a more reflective, swirling cartwheel effect depending on how the dies were prepared. Circulated examples frequently show dark edges, worn reading, surface scratches, rim dings, and reduced luster, which are signs of decades spent in vending machines, pockets, bags, and commercial cash flows. To significantly more collectible, another frequent occurrence is grease-filled die errors. When grease or debris filled parts of the die during striking, details like the date, mint mark, parts of Liberty, or elements of the eagle can appear faint, missing, or distorted. Grease-filled errors are common across many 1991 P quarters, but strong, dramatic examples tend to be more sought after. Off-center strikes are another category of errors found among 1991 P quarters. These occur when the planchet is not perfectly centered between the obverse and reverse dies during striking. Slight misalignments of 5% to 10% are interesting but not highly valuable, while dramatic off-center errors of 40% or more with a fully visible date can command substantial value. Similarly, clip planchet errors, created when a blanking punch overlaps an already cut planchet, result in coins with curved or angled portions missing from the edge. Coins with obvious clips, particularly when they collided in side bins, and counting suffer from spotting or toning due to chemical reactions between the coin's metal and the packaging material over time. Collectors who seek high-grade examples should look for strong strikes with well-defined hair strands near Washington's ear, clear separation in the eagle's wing feathers, fully intact lettering, and smooth, clean fields. The 1991 P quarter also provides valuable educational opportunities for beginner and advanced collectors alike. For new hobbyists, it serves as an accessible coin to study features such as mint marks, wear patterns, circulation effects, and basic die errors. For advanced numismatists, the 1991p quarter offers deep insight into die states, mint production efficiency, strike quality analysis, and error classification. Its abundance makes it easy to find examples to study, while the challenge of locating high-grade specimens keeps the pursuit exciting. Because the Washington Quarter is one of the most widely collected series in American numismatics, the 1991p quarter is an essential component of any complete set. Collectors often build full date and mint mark albums, including the 1991p, 1991d, and 1991s proof issues. Even though the 1991p is not rare, assembling a set of high-quality coins requires patience, precision, and attention to detail. When it comes to long-term storage, proper preservation techniques help maintain the condition of a 1991p quarter. Uncirculated examples should be stored in temperatures and direct handling. Cleaning should be strictly avoided, as it damages the luster and drastically reduces collector value. Coins kept in controlled environments retain their original shine and appeal much longer, making them more desirable in future generations, beyond its physical. Thus, the 1991p quarter dollar remains an important part of American monetary history. It is a symbol of endurance, mass production, artistic continuity, and national identity embedded in a small but powerful piece of metal. While common in quantity, it becomes special through its details, its errors, its high-grade survivors, its production story, and its role in daily American life at the turn of the decade. Its numismatic value may vary by condition, but its historical and cultural significance remains consistent, making it a meaningful and worthy study piece for collectors and enthusiasts who appreciate the rich depth hidden in everyday coins. Thanks for watching this video.